Good evening, everyone. How are we?
Evening, sir.
Good evening, Carlos. How are you? Hello, David. How are you?
Hello. Good, good.
David, good
Excellent.
evening.
I was joining in. So we're just going to wait a couple of minutes while I get the live stream set up and allow everyone in. Um, David, let's promote you and co-host. Co-host. So the Facebook is live. That's good. Uh, Instagram. Let's get that done now. Okay, so we're just going to wait a couple more minutes for a few more people to come in. Hi, Farah, how are you? I'm just making sure everything's going live and then we can get the ball rolling. Hi, Samantha, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Long time no see.
Yeah, I'm all packed and ready for the off at
Oh,
3 a.m. again.
for your random trip to Albania.
I know.
Cool, and we are live now, so that's good. Okay, so I'm going to resume the recording. We'll just wait a couple more minutes for more people to come in, but just to everyone that's joined us, hi Farah, hi Kat, hi Tatiana, hope you're well. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Hobbs. I'm the person that you've had communications with on over email. Daniel's just coming in. Dolly's just on his way. He's just messaged saying that his laptop's just frozen, which is always fun. Bear with. So this evening, hi Danielle, how are you? Hope you're well. Yeah, where's Dolly? Dolly's there. So we've got a couple more minutes and then we can get moving. So basically tonight is just a nice introduction to David, who is going to be joining us this year at the retreat. David works for Dolby and is one of the head honchos, I think it's safe to say, for Dolby Atmos. You're just going to go into a bit of detail, not too in depth because it can get quite quite overpowering the amount of information when it comes to the Dolby side of things, but just going to go into a bit of detail on how Dolby Atmos can help you from a production standpoint, and some of it's mind-blowing, the techniques and things that you can go through, but you will get the opportunity to go through and have your tracks mixed and mastered at the retreat this year, because David will be with us all week with a full Dolby Atmos suite with the speakers courtesy of Genelec. Thank you very much. So yeah, without further ado, I'll obviously keep an eye on any questions that people might have, but by all means, it's an interactive thing. So, please, if you've got any questions, just raise your hand or drop them in the chat, and then we can answer those as best we can, or David can on this occasion. So obviously, hi Dolly, how are you, mate? You okay?
Sorry about that. My laptop just did a backflip as I was going on. It just decided to rainbow wheel me, which was perfect timing. So,
Yeah. So
restart.
I've just given a brief introduction to everyone, saying hello to all the amazing new orbiters that are going to be joining us in Ibiza this year. Giving a very brief introduction to David, but I'm going to allow him to do that himself. We are streaming live so far, which is good. No comments on both. I will keep a monitor on them. But David, if you're happy to take over, then I can hand the baton, so to speak, over to yourself.
Cool. Yeah, hello. Super nice to be part of this. So, yeah, I met the Orbit team like 1.5 years ago at ADE in Amsterdam, where we did a big activation, and we had that idea of doing a Dolby Atmos room at the Orbit retreats, and now it finally worked out for this year. So I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea was that I run through a few slides to give a basic idea of what to expect around this Dolby Atmos room, and because obviously it will probably be the first time that you're actually gonna work in Atmos in that room, but maybe that you can just already get thinking about it a little bit and have your head spinning a bit about it. And I mean, you can technically already start working in Atmos before that, which is cool because you can literally work on a pair of headphones as well and just get into it. But yeah, but we will get into that. So I mean, nobody likes PowerPoints, but I have prepared a few slides. So is this probably fine that I'm sharing some of them and that we have like 20 minutes to give you a little bit of a rundown? Trust me, these are fun and interactive and just help to visualize what this is all about. So I think it's helpful. And what better way to end the day, huh? Or start the day for our Australian colleagues than a PowerPoint. Okay, so let me go for it. I guess you can stop me at any time with questions. We have time for questions afterwards. It's just the idea to give you a basic idea of what this Atmos thingy is about and what to expect there. Hops, did I forget anything, or is there anything you would like to know?
No, so just a very quick one before you get into it. So to all of the attendees this year, so, we are going to do a very brief welcome because this is the first time that we've met some of you. So David's going to go through the Dolby Atmos thing for the first half. We're only expecting to do about an hour tonight. So the first half will be live streamed where we go into a bit of detail over Dolby Atmos and the amazing things it can do. And then on the second half, we'll come off live streaming and then we'll just do a nice introduction to all of our new attendees this year. Very quick, very brief. We are planning on doing another proper welcome meeting in a couple of weeks. It was just a nice taster and a really good introduction to having David on board this year for our retreat. So yeah, over to you, David.
Cool. Let me share my screen then and see. Cool. So I guess you can see my screen and here we go. So yeah, basically my little presentation, because like my job at Dolby is actually to do exactly that, to explain people what Dolby Atmos is, because it's not that new anymore, but for music it's still fairly new. So many people haven't heard about it, and there's a ton of questions about all of this. I guess all of you have probably heard about Dolby Atmos in one way or the other, but I think many people have questions. So I built this little presentation to try to, like, within 15, 20 minutes answer the most important questions. Quickly, before we start, about me or our team within Dolby, we have a team of people. I'm also coming from a sound mixing, sound production background. So I used to be mixing movies and music, and I joined Dolby about 12 years ago already. And my job within Dolby is to help creatives working in Dolby Atmos to answer questions, be like a handholding, like a bridge between the technology and the people that are actually going to use it. So something between product expert and whatever, content relations, artist relations. So that means my job is to answer you also questions. So if you have any questions also later, if you actually maybe are already involved in some projects, if you have a label that is suddenly asking you, hey, can you do this in Atmos for us, whatever, then you know who to email or who to call or WhatsApp. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, so this little presentation is called What is Dolby Atmos? So first off, the basic idea of Dolby Atmos was to do something that is more than stereo, to be able to have 3 dimensions to produce music in, so that you're actually able to place music in front of the listener, behind the listener, on top of the listener, to like create what we call immersive music or spatial audio. You maybe have heard that term. Okay, so that means, in a nutshell, with Dolby Atmos, you have the possibility to use all 3 dimensions to place your musical elements. That's the basics. Okay. Now, why would you do that? We actually figured out that it actually makes a lot of sense artistically. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, the first thing is actually, and we will get to that, you will experience it yourself. But some of the feedback that I'm getting again and again from folks is it gives you literally more space. So you can start putting stuff in the rears and the tops and actually make more space for example, the kick and the drums and the really important elements of your track in the front. And then you can have like synthes and backing vocals and other musical ideas that you might have and that you might not be able to fit in stereo and Atmos. You can suddenly fill them in, and it's actually for your listeners, it gives them a feeling of being in the middle of the music, which I think is pretty interesting. We will get to that. You will experience it because we actually, I think Hobbs mentioned it, we will have an actual Dolby Atmos studio with like 12 loudspeakers in Ibiza, so you can produce music yourself in this format. So this is just a little teaser, but how does this work? We work with a concept that is called, and we'll get to that. So the first thing that I will show you when we meet in Ibiza in a few weeks or a couple months is this three-dimensional space, and then you just have the possibility to place your elements, which can be your drums, your vocals, your backing vocals, your synthesizers, at any position within that space by giving them like an X, Y, and Z positioning. And this way you can craft your music using 3 dimensions. And while you're in the studio, you literally hear your music this way. So you can click on a track in Logic, in Pro Tools, in Cubase, in Ableton. You click on a track with Dolby, you can move it to the rear and you will hear it from behind you, from speakers standing behind you. You can move it to the top, you will hear it from speakers above you. So you are completely free to use all that space for your mix, which is pretty amazing. And then, of course, the big challenge is, and this is where the technology really comes in, because until here, it's mostly a creative possibility and creative freedom. But then the technology comes in when it comes about getting that to your listeners. So how can people actually hear that? Because we have the 12 loudspeakers, thanks to Genelec in Ibiza, but your fans probably don't. So there are different ways to transport that immersive production to listeners nowadays. And this is really the thing that makes all of that mass market compatible. And this has never been the case before. If you remember, there have been music in 5.1, but nobody could really hear it. And it was very a niche topic because it was really, we did not have the end customer devices. And with Atmos, this has kind of changed a bit. So that is usually the big question from artists, producers, musicians, even labels. How do people hear it? Okay, so let me spend a few slides to show you how. The first and currently the most important thing is, so how can you and your fans hear Dolby Atmos? First and the probably most important one is headphones. So it is possible to virtualize three-dimensional sound to headphones. So you use headphones, any headphones, because the processing, that's the magic. The processing happens in the smartphones and the iPhones and the Android phones. You're sending your immersive mix to somebody with a smartphone and they will hear it using headphones, normal headphones. You're getting a virtualized 3D sound field. You maybe saw some advertisements of Apple Spatial Audio. Yeah, Dolby Atmos is exactly the format that is used to power that. So the music that you can hear in spatial audio is Dolby Atmos produced music. So I'm going to show you basically how to produce music for that. So people will be, your fans can put up headphones and they get that impression that the sound is not like flat on their ears, but actually in front of their head, over your head, around you, moving around you, giving you that, we call it externalization, so that you actually get the feeling that the sound is not coming from the headphones, but actually from further away, which is pretty cool. But it is not only headphones. There are actually a ton of, we call it living room devices. They usually work with, it's speaker based, but they don't ask the consumers to put physical speakers in their ceiling. Nobody will do that. So what these devices are doing, they are working with reflections and with a lot of little technologies to enable you to create virtual sound sources. For example, by firing to the ceiling and the sound bounces back from the ceiling to create a virtual sound source. But it's not just that, it's a lot of different technologies. And enabling an enhanced listening in living room devices, like if you're listening to music at home. And there are smart speakers, for example, from Apple, from Amazon, from Sonos, supporting that. So that's one other way that people can actually hear it in immersive. And the cool thing is, with the same mix, you're reaching these class of devices and the headphones. So you're mixing once in Atmos. If somebody has a loudspeaker-based setup, they will hear it through that. If somebody has headphones, they will hear it virtualized on headphones. And the third one, which is pretty cool, is the car. So we are now in about 25 different car brands. So of course, not in every car, but we're getting there. So it's becoming more and more popular that people actually use, because that's pretty cool. The car already has like 10, 15 loudspeakers in a car nowadays. So if you step into your car and you look around, there are speakers in the front, in the rear, in the doors. Some cars have like elevated speakers, like in the ceiling of the car. And with Dolby Atmos, we basically firmware update these cars and enable them to play back the music using all of those speakers in the car, which is pretty cool. So basically, you're able to reach fans in cars, on headphones, on smart speakers, which is pretty much the three most important ways that people are listening to music. So in total, it's about 3 billion devices by now that actually support it. Of course, you need like the content flowing, you need the headphone setup. So of course, not everybody on every smartphone hears it yet, but the technology is already in there. So that's where we are right now. And how are we getting onto that devices? It's obviously music streaming. So by far our biggest partner on this is Apple Music. So this is really Apple Music really helped us pushing it. But Apple Music is not the only one. You can see we have like a lot of music streaming services across the world. So like the international ones are Apple Music, Amazon Music, and Tidal. And then there's a lot of local services. Like Melon is, I think, the biggest service in Korea. QQ Music is the biggest service in China. We have like lots of local services. So that also shows it's not just Apple. So many people think it's an Apple thing, but no, it's actually Apple are one of the people using this ecosystem. Yeah. So how does this actually work? Quick, very, very quick summary. I will explain it to you a little bit more. Sorry for this wall of text. You don't have to read it. I kind of read it to you. So Dolby Atmos has been around for 13 years now. It started in the cinema, it went into streaming, and as a result of that, pretty much all the audio workstation manufacturers have started to integrate it in the last decade, because it's a format, people need to use it. They need it for Netflix, they need it for movies. They start to need it now for music. So if you're an audio workstation manufacturer, of course, it makes sense that you integrate it into your product. So Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, Nuendo, Presonus Studio One, they all have it natively built in. So actually, if you are a user of any of these audio workstations, you already have Dolby Atmos on your laptop without even knowing it, because it's literally included in those software without any extra cost. It's just there if you know what checkbox to tick. And Ableton is the one that I left out here, because for Ableton, actually, they are one of the few who have not yet integrated it, which is a pity. I know Ableton is important. What you can do is you can produce an Ableton and then you can mix an Atmos in Logic, which some people do, like they're exporting the stems, and then for the mixing, they maybe go to another DAW, which many people do anyways. Or you can download a plugin from us for a few $100, which enables Dolby Atmos even on Ableton. So there are workflows. We will get to that. I will show you the Ableton workflow. But again, Cubase, Logic, Pro Tools is native and even easier. Cool. So then, in terms of monitoring, of course, you need to hear something. The cool thing is what I mentioned about the headphone virtualization. You can actually mix while monitoring the headphone virtualization. So you can mix on headphones, so that basically in the software, you tell the software, hello, I want to mix in Atmos, but today I don't have speakers. So what the software will do is they will create the headphone virtualization for you while mixing. So you can monitor on headphones while mixing in Atmos, already start exploring the format, see what happens if you put stuff in the rear, in the sides, see what actually happens, and start working with just headphones. So literally anybody in this call with a Logic license at home and a pair of headphones, you can right after this call open up we have these free online tutorials, which I will show you on the last slide. Just get started. So it's literally there. So it's kind of accessible by now. But of course, it's more fun to monitor in an actual studio with Dolby Atmos. So that's what I have like also in the slide. And that's why we set up an actual studio in Ibiza, and we're not just gonna say, hey, have headphones on. No, I think it's more fun to have actual speakers. So we always recommend to monitor on headphones and on speakers, because ultimately the speaker is the most detailed way to monitor Atmos. This is kind of what the format was originally designed for. And so that's why what we kind of recommend to people is you can get started on headphones. At some point, find a Dolby Atmos equipped studio in your area. We have more than 500 studios in Europe and more than 1,000 in the world now. So you can actually partner with somebody and say, hey, can I come over and finalize my mixes or things like that. So all of this is possible with like a low level entry. You probably noticed that all of this is free that I'm just mentioning. So it's really, we try to make it a low level, low barrier of entry. Yeah. So that's basically how it works. I will explain it to you. So you basically check out some of our tutorials, check out some headphones. And if you really want to get into, you probably go to our website and see what studios are in your area. I mean, I don't know if you, for example, based in London, there are literally 100 Dolby Atmos equipped mixing rooms in London, 100 studios just in London. Berlin, we have about 15, 20 maybe in Berlin. I mean, in the States, we have like 300, 400. So you find Dolby Atmos studios in every bigger city. So yeah, that's that. And this is how it looks like. These screenshots I did for some indie pop label. So sorry, this is now indie pop, but it's across all genres. So if you are on Apple Music, for example, they have their own playlists. Like in Germany, it's called 3D audio. In English, it's called spatial audio. So you can have like hip hop and spatial audio, dance and spatial audio. But my Apple Music account is German, so that's why I see 3D, 3D audio. That's the German wording, okay? Yeah, when you click on a track, you actually see this Dolby Atmos logo next to the track. It's shown while playing. So this is how it looks in the GUI of the Apple Music account. One little thing that might also be interesting to you is that Apple actually pays more when people deliver in Atmos. So they do this in a pretty cool way. They simply count every stream as 1.1 streams. So if you deliver a track in Atmos, then every stream of that track will count as 1.1 streams. So you're getting 1 million streams, and then you're just getting 100,000 streams for free. They call that spatial weighting. So basically the content that you're delivering in Atmos is worth more streams, which is a good way to get a little bit of return on investment, in addition to having these exclusive playlistings and all kinds of collaborations that Apple does all around spatial audio. So again, it definitely also is an opportunity commercially and of course creatively. So these two things always have to go hand in hand. Yeah. So this is how it looks on Amazon Music. It's kind of the same, except that they don't pay 10% more. Too bad. But it's the same. They have like their featured categories. Again, in Germany, it's called 3D audio. Why ever? Because they think Germans don't know what spatial is, right? So for us Germans, they call it 3D audio, as we pronounce it. But in the English-speaking clients, it's called spatial audio. And you have like your landing page, you have your featured playlists, you have the logo. So it's pretty similar. So this is how streaming service is integrated. Again, this is included in the standard subscriptions. You don't need a fancy subscription. You don't need a fancy phone. You just need a normal smartphone, headphones, Apple Music, Amazon Music subscription. And then if you have that, just go to these playlists and have a listen. That's it. It's already at your fingertips. So yeah. So that's kind of the end of the little story. This is how it works. Just quick overview of what we are doing and how we are happy to support you even now before the retreat, but also afterwards and during. So things that we are doing is we are hosting demos, listening sessions, like what we do at Ibiza, what we will do again at IDE. So for example, if your label is asking you, hey, can you deliver some tracks in Atmos or whatever, and you need to hear it actually in a studio, you can literally drop me a message and I can find a studio in your city, because we know all of these Atmos studios, because we have been involved with most of them. So what we really do on a like weekly basis, we accommodate people, or we organize that you can get into a studio to hear it, or to test something, or to approve a mix that somebody else did for you. It's another big topic. Somebody mixed the track for you and you were like, shit, I have to hear it. How do I do that? Just call us and we organize that you can come to one of our office or to a studio. So what we also do is, again, I mentioned this, free tutorials and support, online one-on-one support for producers, engineers. We do these bigger events. If you are at ADE, you absolutely have to come to our Dolby house, but I will mention this again in Ibiza. So we like set up a space for 200 people with a full-blown 16 loudspeaker Dolby Atmos setup. We hosted persons like Max Cooper, Armin van Buuren, Carista, New Order even. So we hosted a lot of artists. Joris Vaughan was there on the floor. Sefa, hardstyle DJ, not sure if you know him. All of these guys do already Dolby Atmos. Like Armin van Buuren, by the way, does his whole catalog in Atmos. So his new album is Atmos. He's a big fan of the format, as are many others. So yeah. So this is where we are right now, and yeah, this is the list of studios. You may be not sure if you need that one, but I can share the slides later. But I think this one could be interesting if you want to scan that QR code. This is basically these tutorials I mentioned that kind of give you a low-level entry to just go and test it if you want. And then, of course, you are going to experience it in person in Ibiza in just 2 months. And yeah, this is what we're going to offer you. And I think first and foremost, it's a creative possibility and it's a lot of fun. So I think you should really focus on the fun part and just see how cool it is to be able to place your mix literally all around the listener in a way that you just could not do before. Yeah. So yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to show you. I hope my PowerPoint was short enough.
Thanks,
Yeah,
David.
any
That was
questions?
really good. Yeah. Has anybody got any questions about this at all?
Too much information. I know it is.
Yeah.
I can vouch
Yeah.
for this as a you know, I've done a lot with Dolby Atmos in my time and do in the live performance area of it, and it really does like bring a track to life. You can when you hear a track normally and then you hear it in Atmos, it's just night and day, and it's really worth putting the time in. You know, to now, because this will be the future, and eventually, I'm sure everything will be this will be the basic. You know, there's like MP3 WAV, and there's Atmos. You know, I think eventually people are going to expect this kind of quality, and eventually the clubs will hopefully catch up, and it will all be everything will work in the same way. And yeah, it's really worth doing, and giving that kind of gift to your listener to give them that extra level of quality. And it's just a fun process as well. And when you're doing your mix downs, it's nice to have that extra set of ears on things to make sure that your mix down is really, really perfect, because it's just an extra level of quality that you can add to your mix downs that you've already done. So it's really, really worth investing the time in this for sure.
Cool. Thank you so much for for adding your perspective on it. Yeah. So
Any
it's
questions? Anybody else got any questions on this?
It's maybe another point to point out that actually, again, because Apple is very, especially Apple, but like also the other services are very actively asking for this kind of content, it will be more and more common that the labels start to reach out. So like they already do this for basically everything where they're expecting more than 1 million streams. Kind of this seems to be kind of a threshold where they kind of say, we really have to do this. We're missing out on so many opportunities. So there is some kind of commercial thing. So it will probably come across you at some point, one way or the other. So it's good to be prepared. But again, as Dolly said, it shouldn't be the commercial thing alone. You shouldn't do it because you have to. You should kind of explore it because it's fun. And just mentioning it, it's also commercially kind of good to get into it now already, to be prepared when you're asked. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's really insightful, David, and we really thank you for taking the time to actually briefly explain it. I was thinking about it earlier today and thinking, actually, it's such a massive, in-depth conversation to be had that we just didn't have enough time to go through it. And I love the idea that obviously we've got you with us this year in Ibiza, because to experience it is the game changer for me. To actually involve yourself and listen to your tracks that you're making and or producing, and have you mix and master them in Dolby Atmos in that environment. Really, that'll be the acid test, so to speak, to see how it goes. That's brilliant. Any questions at all?
I've got a question.
Okay, Mark, how are you, mate?
I'm doing great. Good to see you guys. Hey, I'm just
Excellent.
wondering if so I've experienced Dolby Atmos in many different settings. One thing when I'm listening to it with headphones binaurally is I don't get a very great sense of height. I get a great sense of front, back, left, right, but I don't get a great sense of height. I'm wondering if there's certain types of headphones or certain brands of headphones that would help that, or has the binaural rendering of Atmos gotten better throughout the years? Or is this something that other people have experienced or complained about or talked about?
Interesting. So I have quite a few things to add to that. So yeah, so first off, the virtualization is using psychoacoustic principles. So we're trying to trick your brain into thinking that things are coming from behind and from the top. So ultimately, it's a subjective experience. So that's actually, some brains are easier to be tricked, basically. So some people are more receptive to binaural audio than others, which is kind of proven. Because yeah, like with 3D picture or all of these things, it's ultimately a way that we're trying to trick the brain. And like many people have more like, for example, an issue with the front, like they can't believe that something is in front of them when they don't see it. So, and for you, it's more the height. So yes, it's first off, it's a subjective thing. So it's absolutely possible that you have less like resolution in the height. The second thing is, yes, there are better and worse headphones. So basically, for example, the Apple AirPods, they are kind of tuned with spatial audio in mind. So they generally, like the AirPod Max, they generally work quite well, to be honest. Then, of course, like really high quality headphones help because this is based on little shifts in phase response and frequency response and time of arrival between the left ear and right ear, which are like the little tricks that you're using. Phase, frequency response, time of arrival. And of course, the more detailed, the more precise your headphone, the better you're actually able to transport all of that. So like some of the best binaural I had was one quite expensive studio headphones, like from Austrian Audio or stuff like that. That's the second thing. Third thing of your question, does it evolve? Absolutely. This is a technology that is, it's kind of in the realm of XR and VR. It's like part of that stuff that is currently being changed continuously. So yes, this is definitely not the final for binaural audio that we're seeing right now. So this is something that has improved a lot in the last 2 years. So like spatial audio 2 years ago was much worse than it is now. But yeah, it definitely also will improve going forward. Yeah. So good question. Thanks so much. And it's great to hear that you already had some experience with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you listen to it? Was it on, or if I may ask, on Apple or on Amazon or?
So I used to work at Dolby back in like 2014 through 2018.
Oh,
That's how I met Dorley, and so I'm familiar with it in that sense. Any movie I go see, I make sure to see it in a Dolby Cinema because it's just a way better experience. And yeah, I do have a pair of Apple AirPods that are the best headphones I've used for binaural.
okay. Good. So at least I didn't say anything too wrong. Cool. So you're a former colleague. So great. Okay. Yeah. Which office were you based in? In the London office or?
I was in San Francisco, so
Okay.
I worked on so in 2014 we're still trying to put Atmos onto Blu-ray discs, and doing this
Yes.
called spatial coding. I think you probably are familiar with it. So I did a lot of work with that. Then I moved in onto music, and we started doing the Dolby Atmos for music and DJs, and spent time at the Ministry of Sound with the sound system there. And there's a club in Chicago that we put an
Oh, cool.
Atmos system in, and Dorley played there.
Yeah.
And so
Awesome.
yeah, and then just in my own personal experiments with it at home.
Very cool. So that's so great. So then you come with a lot of experience already. Yeah, I heard of the Project Muse. Back then I wasn't involved in music yet, but I heard of those things. So I never was in the Ministry of Sound back then, but
It was quite an experience. It was really fun, and Ministry of Sound just sounded great. Not only did it have the Atmos, but it had lights that would fire off when sounds would hit that speaker. So you actually had a visual thing on top of the auditory thing. That it was a really cool experience.
I hope we get back to that at some point. Yeah.
I'd love it if it came. I feel like it's meant to be, and that one day it will be because it really is a special experience to be able to do that and to be able to play like that. It was just the controller. We never really kind of mastered the controller of making that. That was the hardest part, to get the actual hardware to be able to do what you could do in the studio as from a DJ set as well. But it was good. It was a lot of fun, and it sounded brilliant. It was yeah, really good. It's really worth it. I have so much fun doing the mastering part of it as well. You know, actually being able to separate and set something, just add more texture and color to a mix down, just brings the tracks to life so much. Whether or not you're using it in a club or not, it just really, it does help, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of learning and a lot of it's just brings more to the track for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, the whole topic of immersive live is definitely something that is happening. I mean, we have our own little thing with Dolby Live, which is unfortunately still limited to like 2 venues. So, but it's more like it's more than a proof of concept, but it wouldn't be fair to say that, but it's still limited to a few venues, and so it's not growing that quickly. But there are also other companies in that whole space of bringing Dolby Atmos, not Dolby Atmos, bringing immersive audio to live and club situations, like what Ella Acoustics is doing, and so on. And the cool thing is, if you're producing in an object-based 3-dimensional sound format like Dolby Atmos, it's actually relatively easy to take those mixing decisions and adopt them for live sets. So even if you're playing in a club that is not Dolby Atmos, but that is just with Ella Acoustics, for example, an immersive venue, like what they do in the Sphere in Las Vegas, for example, and what they're doing in Tomorrowland Festival stages, and where they're experimenting all over the globe. You can say, hey, I have actually tracks produced in Atmos. I can take those decisions I made in my mix, and I can use them for playing at an immersive stage, which has been done again, because again, it's basically front, rear, top. I mean, you can get that from one format to the other. So experimenting with immersive, I think, can be very interesting regardless of the format. Yeah. So
well, thanks a lot, David. And
Yep,
any students
amazing.
like anything, we're gonna have a full setup at the retreat. Anyone that's got tracks that you want to have mixed in Atmos, bring your stems, have them ready. It's a great experience. So yeah, we're gonna really enjoy that. So
yeah.
I think for the rest, we're going to do a separate call with all the students where we introduce everybody and do a proper deep dive in everyone's levels and where they're at, because everyone's at different levels. Before we wrap up this call, is there anybody that's got any general questions about the retreat, anything like that? Anybody needs any burning questions? We'll probably do the call next week. If there's anything you need to know in the meantime, anyone want to say hello or anything, just give us a shout now. Let us know.
You sure you don't be shy?
Everyone's shy today.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we did sort of think perhaps we were putting too much on this call with the Dolby side of things. So we just thought, let's can it, let's strip it back, and we'll do a proper welcome meeting next week, and just have our attendees joining next week, and then obviously they can get a real in-depth look personally in Ibiza in a couple of weeks at the Dolby setup, which I'm intrigued to see how it all all pans out. But yeah, we didn't want to flood you with too much information. But by all means, don't be scared, because I know there's some people who are attending this year that are, quite early on in their production stages. Honestly, don't worry in the slightest. This isn't something you're expected to know, because I've been DJing and producing for many years, and I have no idea about Dolby Atmos. So so you're not alone in that sense. So don't worry in the slightest.
Yeah, this is
No,
good.
that was never the idea. So for me, the idea is I kind of expect this to be new to 90% of the attendees, and whatever you're working on in that week, we will give you the opportunity to try working on that in 3 dimensions and just see how it works for you. And obviously, as Hobbs was mentioning, you can of course use the opportunity and say, hey, I'm actually gonna bring some stems and actually gonna use the fact that we have that studio and work on getting something that you can release afterwards. But you absolutely don't have to do that. But the opportunity exists. I mean, why not, right? It's free studio. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you'll have to try and kick me out of there when need be. I'll be
No
hogging
worries.
it.
No, I'm probably gonna work with you there. It will be fun.
Great.
That's
Well,
amazing.
we'll schedule a meeting probably the same time next week, I reckon.
Yeah.
For a proper welcome meeting to get to know everybody. But yeah, thanks for everyone that's attended, everyone that's watching online, and thanks to David and Dolby because we're really excited for this partnership, and it's something that we're all passionate about. We want to level everybody up, and in my opinion, this is the highest level of audio quality that you can get.
Yeah.
So whether you're starting out or you're ready to master your tracks, it's something you should be aware of, and something you should really be thinking of for the future for your own tracks when it's time to release, because it will enhance what you're doing.
Cool.
Amazing.
Looking forward to see you.
Great.
Sorry.
So I think we'll end it there. Any questions? Obviously, you're all in the group as well. Farah, Tatiana, Kat, Mark, unfortunately, isn't attending this year, but he is one of our regular attendees over the past few years. So he was itching to jump on the call, having been involved with Dolby previously. So Carlos he attended last year, and he's our support this year. Dolly is the linchpin of it all. Dr. Sam in the corner there, she's an orbit lifer. He's going getting lost in Albania tomorrow, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, Farah, Tatiana, and Kat, looking forward to meeting you guys. We'll chat next week a bit more and get to know you better. And it's a good the welcome meeting's good to get to know all the other students as well. It's a really good it's a good little hangout thing. So put a couple of hours aside next week. We'll work out the date today and send an email to you all.
Yeah, amazing,
Cool.
guys. Thank you for logging in, and we will meet you properly next week.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.